The Shameless Picture Show is part of the Cinepunks Network. If you like The Shameless Picture Show and you want to hear other great shows like it, make sure you check out the Cinepunks Network. You can find them at www.cinepunks.com. That's CINEPUNX. There's other great shows such as Cinepunks. There's The Carnage Report, Cinema Smorgasbord, Fat Girl Hacks, Loud, Fast, Philly, Tomb of Ideas, and Twitch of the Death Nerve, and so much more. If you like punk rock and you like movies, make sure to go to www.cinepunks.com. And let's not forget the sponsors for the Cinepunks Network. We have the Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. They are the premier screen printer of the Lehigh Valley with service to the whole country, professional and personable in a way that only a DIY business can be. They also have ridiculously low prices for whatever your screen printing needs may be. You can visit them online at xlvacx.com. That's xlvacx.com. Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. We also have the Essex Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted to order. They have high quality beans, bunch of apparel, and tea available. They are bringing high quality coffee to the masses without the pretentiousness. Use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order. You can visit them at www.essexcoffeeroasters.com. That's ESSEX, coffeeroasters.com. Once again, use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order. This episode is also brought to you by Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures is a legendary producer and global distributor of filmed entertainment since 1912. Paramount Pictures' library consists of more than 1,000 film titles with rights to an additional 2,500, featuring films by Hollywood's most respected filmmakers, including Martin Scorsese, J.J. Abrams, and Michael Bay, among others. Paramount Pictures' library consists of more than 1,000 films, including such classics as Star Trek, Godfather, and Indiana Jones franchises. Academy Award winners Braveheart, Forrest Gump, and Titanic, and current favorites such as the Mission Impossible and Transformers franchises. Paramount Pictures distributes its titles on DVD and Blu-ray through Paramount Home Entertainment. We are happy to have them. We fucking love Paramount Pictures.
Good evening. I'm Luce, and on dark and eerie nights like this, I can't help but think about Halloween. I'm so sick of Halloween celebrations being limited to a few weeks out of the year. That's why I created It's Always Halloween, a year-round podcast on which I'll dive deep into the dark history of our favorite horror-filled holiday. Each episode will explore one specific custom, fear, or fright, inspired by my own curiosity and listener queries. If you have a Halloween question you need answered or just want to share a Halloween memory, call my All Hallows hotline at 802-532-DEAD. Or you can write me an email at it'salwayshalloweenpodcast@gmail.com. Tune in if you dare.
This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to our yearly Christmas edition of The Shameless Picture Show. Joining me today is a man that you all should know at this point, but I'm going to introduce him as such. He's a captain of industry who's feared by men and adored by women. Say your name, Nick.
Oh, me. I thought you were talking about
Kyle.
Kyle.
Oh, no. You're the only one.
Nick Richards.
You're the only one who gets quotes in the movies, Nick. I've told you this. And then, but we are not alone in this, however. Joining us once again on the Shameless Picture Show for his 7th appearance is the one and only Kyle Arpke. For those who are not familiar, Kyle is a gifted filmmaker, nature photographer, and cineast. When he's not capturing breathtaking images of the natural world or creating compelling documentaries about the black market trade of dinosaur bones, he can be found immersed in tabletop board games or indulging his deep passion for all things Star Wars. How's it going, Kyle?
It's the best intro anyone's ever given for me. Merry Christmas.
The amount of times that people have told me that just warms the cockles of my fucking heart. Because I take a lot of pride in, like, when it's someone who I don't have personal experience with, I'll be like, hey, can you send me a bio, and then I'll tool it from there. But it's like I know Kyle long enough, I can write that intro. But how are you both doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. There's just been a little bit of snow that just passed through, so feeling a little bit of the sinus from that. But other than that, it's been great.
How about you, Nick?
I'm just enjoying being adored by women.
You paid for the women.
Let's be honest. Well, this is our annual holiday musical production time at work, so I am cockles deep in work that is very stressful. So I do a lot of the video sets. We have a big video wall, and I design all the sets for it. Well, because it is an over 100-year-old theater, the electrical system is not really designed for a video wall like that. So as I was getting ready to hook it all up and start work on it like a month ago, one of the plugs melted into the wall and could have very easily caused a very serious fire. So I've spent most of the last month fixing that and not getting the video sets done. So now that it's finally all up and running, we got an electrician in to put in dedicated outlets on dedicated breakers for this video wall. Now it's I have a month's worth of work to do in about a week. So I'm a little busy.
Fair enough. What show are you guys doing?
The classic holiday musical, The Sound of Music.
Nothing says Christmas more than Nazis.
Right? It's a very weird, also just kind of a weird political time to be doing a play that involves Nazis. Other than that, two lines in that one favorite Things song, it has nothing to do with Christmas, and we're really heavy-handedly, because there's no other way to do it, wedging Christmas elements in order for it to feel Christmassy. We were gonna do Annie, which is also kind of only quasi-Christmassy.
No, but I feel like it's easier to force Christmas into Annie than The Sound of Music.
Yeah. We were denied the rights to it, so then we applied for Elf and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and we were denied rights for both of them. We have never been denied rights on that.
You've done Elf before, haven't you?
We've done Elf. We've done Annie twice. It would have been the first time doing Rudolph. We've been trying to do that for a couple of years, but then it was it was crunch time. We had to pick something, so we had to go with just something that we could get the rights to, and that's what we got.
It feels very anti the theme of Elf to stop someone from performing Elf.
I don't blame the theaters. I don't it's a systemic problem.
They're playing the fucking game. And the game
as good as they can in order to survive.
And the game is jerking off old white people who have money. Let's be real, that's not the worst thing I've said on this show.
That's going to be the only thing Austin leaves in, so it's without all the context.
Yes.
Interestingly, though, one year we performed a version of Christmas Carol that I wrote as a modernized retelling, which feels very apt for this conversation.
That's
sure.
a perfect transition. This evening, we're diving into a holiday classic with a fresh twist. A film that reimagines a beloved literary masterpiece with sharp wit, biting satire, and a healthy dose of heart. Richard Donner's Scrooged. It's also worth mentioning, this is the same director who did The Omen. I just feel that's something I have to mention. Frank Cross is a ruthless television executive whose cutthroat ambition has turned him into one of the most detestable figures in New York City. Self-absorbed and mean-spirited, he's willing to crush anyone who stands in his way. But on Christmas Eve, Frank is visited by the ghost of his former boss, who warns him that if he doesn't change his ways, he'll face a future of loneliness and emotional torment. Over the course of the night, Frank will be visited by 3 ghosts who will take him on a transformative journey filled with reflection, revelation, and hopefully redemption. Donner's take on Dickens is a masterclass of blending broad humor and social commentary and has no problems poking fun at the cutthroat world of corporate America. However, Scrooge is not just humor and satire. There's a lot of heart in this film as well. Murray takes his trademark sarcasm and creates a truly repellent character that borderlines on irredeemable. However, with his supporting cast of characters such as Karen Allen and Bobcat Goldthwait and Carol Kane, Murray is able to shine and really brings the sentimentality. While Scrooge has garnered a devoted cult following and enjoyed a solid box office success, it wasn't without its share of critics upon release. Renowned film critic Roger Ebert described the film as one of the most disquieting, unsettling films to come along in some time. However, Dwayne Burge of The Hollywood Reporter offered a more nuanced perspective, noting that despite the juicy, on-the-edge craziness, Murray is able to layer his outrageous histrionics with an inner sensibility, making his ultimate transformation not only believable, but Christmas cheer uplifting. Despite the mixed reactions at the time, Scrooge has since solidified its place as a holiday favorite, regularly topping lists of the greatest Christmas films of all time as compiled by Empire, Time Out Magazine, and Consequence of Sound, which is a music magazine, but
okay,
whatever. The film stars Bill Murray, Karen Allen, Bobcat Goldthwait, Carol Kane, Michael J. Pollard, Alfre Woodward, Robert Mitchum, and John Forsythe as Lou Hayward. The film features cinematography by Michael Chapman of Taxi Driver fame, music by Danny Elfman, and was edited by the father-son duo of Frederick and William Steinkamp. The film was written by Mitch Glazer and Michael O'Donoghue, based on the Charles Dickens classic A Christmas Carol. Directed by Richard Donner from 1988, this is Scrooged.
I got into broadcasting because I like to give.
Hey, that's my cab!
Sometimes I found myself hurting from giving too much.
Fire these people.
But it's Christmas.
Bah humbug.
You are going to be visited by 3 ghosts. Expect the first one tomorrow at noon.
God, tomorrow's bad for me, Lou.
I'm the ghost.
I'm the ghost of Christmas present.
I had a funny feeling.
I can't get the antlers glued onto this little guy.
Have you tried Staples?
Don't you dare.
I'm so happy, but so poor.
She made me do for a raise.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably. May I?
Oh, I'm having the weirdest day.
It's never too late. You can always change if you want to.
I've never liked a girl enough to give her 12 sharp knives.
For a couple of hours out of the whole year, we are the people that we always hoped we would be.
Did I forget something, big man?
God blesses everyone.
Nick, I think since
okay.
Oh, what were you going to say?
You mentioned Robert Goulet's old-fashioned Cajun Christmas. There is no way that was not the inspiration for Will Ferrell's Robert Goulet sketch on SNL. Do you remember that?
Yes, I'm confident it is. Kyle, have you seen any of those?
No,
Will Ferrell playing Robert Goulet. It's not terribly funny if you don't know who Robert Goulet is. If you do, they're pretty spot on. Robert Goulet.
It's like an infomercial for like a him singing songs, but he's like sitting in a car out in the woods somewhere going, hey, do you love the classics? And then he kind of sings, but then like a deer comes. It's just bonkers.
And Robert Goulet, for those of you listening at home, was a old school crooner and actor. He wasn't like, he was past the time of like a Frank Sinatra, but he really got his name on stage doing big classic musicals. He's got a really big boisterous voice underneath that mustache.
Well, and you also failed to mention what he is most famous for, and that is being in Beetlejuice.
Yes. So Nick, I feel like we have been quoting this movie
from day one
since we started doing this show.
Yeah.
And when we were trying to figure out a Christmas episode to do for this season, we pitched it. We went along the normal pitches, you know, like I think you had suggested the night before, which almost got picked. But I think we both realized that we needed to find a way to talk about Scrooged. And even though this is my show and I can do whatever the fuck I want, I felt compelled to look at, about if I'm going to do Scrooged, I need to have it fit within our theme of it being on someone's shame list.
It's because you have artistic integrity.
I try. And it's funny how this came to be. So, Nick, I remember saying to you, like, we need to find someone who hasn't seen Scrooge before. And that felt like a daunting task. And you were, like, going into your proverbial Rolodex. And you were trying to find names. And I remember me and Kyle were standing in line to get into a haunted house. We waited for 3 hours in that line.
It was long.
It was a very long line. And we should have just bought the Fast Pass tickets because it was $10. But no, we'll wait in line. And I was telling him, it's like, yeah, we want to do this episode. We're probably going to do it anyways, but we're having a really hard time finding someone who hasn't seen Scrooged. And he just, with that, like, he's like, I haven't seen Scrooged. And I was like, holy shit.
And it's all coming together.
And I didn't even think to ask you because I'm just listening to this perspective. There's like, everyone has seen Scrooged. So let me ask you this, Kyle, before we get into initial impressions. Had you heard of this movie before? Or is it just because in my life, and I think in Nick's life, this was a really big film, but it might not be for everyone else.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a big part of both of your guys' life. Just from talking with you, Michael, where you say like you watch it at least once a year.
Once or twice, yeah.
I think the first time I had ever heard of it was from you. I have like a brief memory maybe of my mom or my stepdad talking about it because they're Bill Murray fans and watched a lot of his films. But I don't know that I had ever come across it until I had heard you talk about it. So, yeah, it was foreign to me.
And that's fascinating to me and part of it also has to be probably my upbringing. Like, Bill Murray just seemed to be always a force in our household, and I have very complicated feelings about him, which I'm hoping we'll talk about in this episode. But then I've also just a real big nerd for A Christmas Carol, just even though I haven't read it, funny enough. But I seek out different adaptations of it. I love the story of it. It's a dream project to do my own version of A Christmas Carol at some point in my life. So it makes sense to me that this version was always around. And like, funny, like Nick, I don't even remember how Scrooged originally came up. I think we just started casually quoting it throughout episodes.
I think one of the, you know, the way that I enjoy talking about movies, and it's a lot of like narrative breakdown. And as I was I've seen this film dozens and dozens of times, and I'm like, okay, I'm excited. I'm going to watch this. I got my notebook and I'm ready. And because it is A Christmas Carol, like, sure, I could talk about all of the things that narratively I find interesting about A Christmas Carol, but that's different than Scrooge. So I found that like most of what I was responding to was how incredible the dialogue is, and I think that's what made it stick with me. And since we're from that like pre-meme culture where so much of our communication is movie and TV quotes. And it's a film that like also talked so much about film as a fundamental part of this character's upbringing. I think it made the dialogue very like something that without effort I used in my life on a regular basis. And you seem to do that also, Michael. So as we like are talking films, how are we not going to be quoting Scrooged to the same level that I would quote like Anchorman? Because yes, I was a 20-year-old white male when Anchorman came out, so of course I did, that Family Guy, it was in that wheelhouse of things that like, oh, I can use this to communicate with other people.
Yeah, and I also have a sneaking suspicion. So for anyone who might be new to this show, me and Nick, whenever people would say, like, where do I begin with the Shameless Picture Show? Usually I tell people to just find a movie that you like and start there. Or go way back to season 1. I want to say it was episode 8. It was a very weird number. Me and Nick did an episode called Daddy Issues, where we talk about just our history with films via our parents. And I have a sneaking suspicion it might have come up in that episode. I don't remember for sure. But I have a
just
suspicion.
Statistically, it's pretty likely that Scrooge got referenced in that episode.
In the Daddy episodes, Daddy Issues episode. So like I said, this is a movie that it's almost daunting to talk about because, like, it's a movie that has been so tied to my life. And that was interesting, Kyle, when we were... Because I actually brought the movie over to Kyle's house yesterday. He made this delightful roast dinner, and then we all as a family, it felt like, sat down and watched Scrooged. And I remember Kyle's your wife Jess, who said that afterwards, like, Kyle, you should have been taking notes on this movie. It's a pretty like heady movie, and I'd never viewed it that way. So let me just ask: like, you've had now just about 24 hours to process Scrooged. Where's your head at?
I mean, I think the movie is pretty off the rails.
Yeah,
like it goes hard in places, and it goes hard in ways that you don't expect it to. Like that, there's a lot of bold choices that it's making, I think, throughout, but especially with like the world that they're in, being like, sometimes it's realistic, sometimes it's not, but not because it's got the like ghost element. It's just, I don't know. Like, I was floored by a lot of it.
Yeah, it almost feels like a fantasy film, even when the ghosts aren't involved.
Yeah.
It's like heightened.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's a weird heightened reality, but even that's not entirely true. At some points, it's just not a reality-based at all, in a way.
No.
Well, and so much of it takes place within the TV production world that, like, that fantasy of creating story in that way, in that corporate way, is, I think, very... The setting of the film lends itself very well to that, like, realistic fantasy.
Yeah, that's true. I think what's also kind of interesting that's sort of like not mentioned in the synopsis is that it's a Christmas Carol within a Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is also kind of interesting in its own right.
And that's always one thing I've always responded to it, because while it is a Christmas Carol, like you said, it's a world that it's set in a world where they know what the Christmas Carol is. Like, I think Bill Murray even has lines about it. It's like, I know what's going to happen here. You're going to take me back to my childhood and, all that. And so he's familiar with this. And I actually appreciate that they told a Christmas Carol story, but, Bill Murray wasn't playing a Scrooge character. He wasn't Scrooge. They didn't have why can't I think of Scrooge's assistant's name in the original story. Like they didn't have I want to say Clampett. That's not right. That's the fucking Beverly Hillbillies. I'm
Kermit.
Yeah,
Bob
whoever
Cratchit.
Kermit played, or if you're thinking about the Disney version, it is Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, right.
But they didn't have that version. His brother was kind of the conduit for
I
that.
think is it Bob Cratchit?
Bob Cratchit. Yeah.
Okay.
Clamp it. Bob Cratchit. His brother was kind of that conduit, or his assistant was kind of that conduit. Just like, they didn't have Jacob Marley. They had his own version of it.
Yeah.
They don't give them their name, the same name.
Yeah. They're stand-ins for these characters.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because then they're able to have fun with the story of Scrooge that they're producing, which, I'm not going to lie, seems like a very boring production for that channel.
I don't know. Jamie Farr plus the nipples.
Dickens would want to see her nipples.
I want to see that production.
Yeah, they had some crazy dance numbers that they're bringing up.
Check this
But
out.
then in between, it's like this really old school retelling of a Christmas Carol.
Yeah, with America's favorite old fart.
Yeah.
It's like as they are doing a retelling of Scrooge or A Christmas Carol, they're also showing you how not to do a retelling of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. I want to say...
Although I want to see one with a mouse with antlers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not stapled.
Yeah.
It's not stapled.
I love how he's like, I tried super glue, but I would never hurt him out.
I've always wondered too. It's like, okay, so they're adding this Dormouse, but like, why does he have antlers? I've been always trying to I want to know who that got up to in production where they're like, well, clearly he needs antlers.
The same person who was like, we need a Tiny Tim who can do a triple back handspring into one of these.
That's right.
And then, since we're now just kind of riffing on things, Nick, you mentioned Jamie Farr as Bob Cratchit. Did Jamie Farr piss someone off in this movie? Because they show him literally twice in this movie. He doesn't have a single line. Did he say something uncouth? Because they just completely cut him out of this movie.
Jamie Farr tells it like it is, and he doesn't care who he pisses off. I actually know nothing about Jamie Farr except he was in MASH.
I don't know anything about him. He was in MASH, and he was in Cannonball Run, a Burt Reynolds movie.
Ooh,
it's hard to watch because he's in brownface in that movie playing a Middle Eastern guy.
I know the guy that edited that.
Wait, you know the guy that edited Cannonball Run and you've never told me?
I've definitely told you about him. I might not have connected it to Cannonball Run. I was trying to get him as a guest on he had agreed to be a guest on the podcast, but then he had some family stuff come up and had to back out.
All right. Well, we'll have to talk about that later.
And most importantly, he directed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original live action movie.
I have so many questions for this man.
Right?
We'll have to work on that.
Yep.
All right. So the biggest thing I want to talk about. So anytime you do a Christmas Carol, I feel like the Christmas Carol story really hinges on your version of Scrooge. Most people usually take the character of Ebenezer Scrooge and turn him into a crotchety old fuck. And while he was that character, there is a side of Scrooge that I don't feel like many productions usually get right, in that he is a person who is very lost in his own grief and is letting that consume him and consume his heart. But as I said, most people usually really amp up how much of a piece of shit this guy is. So it made logical sense to have Bill Murray in this part, because Bill Murray is just kind of playing the Bill Murray character, but somehow even worse. And Nick, back when we did Ghostbusters, I was very
Yes.
critical on Ghostbusters because I thought Bill Murray's character was kind of a piece of shit.
Yep.
That had no redemption arc. He was the same person at the beginning of the movie who was skeezing on his female students, not taking anything seriously. The only redeemable save the cat moment he had was the fact that he chose not to take advantage of a sleeping woman.
Right.
Should not be like your ground
Good
level
for him.
Like,
Right.
you know, that's like that should not be your base level. Like, okay, he's maybe not a bad guy, but like, he never learns anything in the end. And then me and you had a discussion about Scrooge because of the whole Bill Murray of it all, and how Bill Murray is bored. Like, he's funny, but he's very unlikable as a human being.
Yeah.
But yet his character in this movie doesn't bother me the way that it does in Scrooged, or the way it does in Ghostbusters, because there is a redemption arc of sorts in this movie.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Bill Murray and my complicated feelings about him. What did you guys think about Bill Murray as Frank Cross, the avatar of Scrooge?
I always do my best when we're discussing a film that took place in decades past to like discuss it from a modern perspective, but also keeping in mind the lens of the time in which it was made.
Yeah.
So as we get further and further from when this film was made, I think it is clearer and clearer how horrible of a person Frank Cross is. I think when I was younger and I watched it, I'm like, oh, he's kind of angry. And now when I watch it, I go, wow, he is despicable. You know, and so that's a part of my journey, going from a kid watching a yelling man to like, oh wow, no, this guy is a piece of shit. To the point where when I was younger, I really appreciated that redemption arc that you're talking about. And watching it now, it's not satisfying to me because I'm like, in a month, how is this guy? Like, I need to see what he's like 10 years from now before I'm ready to let this guy off the hook. And Claire, it doesn't matter how long he is great after this moment, Claire deserves better. And like, it doesn't matter how happy and joyful and Christmassy he is at the end. That girl needs to find somebody who appreciates her.
No, and I had that feeling this most recent time watching it with Kyle, and I think Kyle, your wife Jess, even said something like that. Like when him and Claire got back together at the end, she just kept going, no. Yeah, she just kept. And then there's a line that Bill Murray says in the middle of the film when he goes to the homeless shelter to find Claire, and he's ripping on the volunteers, and he goes, I can guarantee they're like this all year round. I promise you. And I was like, yeah, that's you. Like you got a little scared, but you're going to revert back to being this person. I'm confident of it.
Yeah. I mean, even in the ending, I feel like it doesn't quite feel genuine. Part of that is because like Bill Murray's performance is very hammy.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard to ever figure out if he's saying things sarcastically or because he means them. Like, it's just not an easy character to pin down.
No.
So even at the end, it's like, I don't quite know if you believe this or if the cocaine it feels like you had made you say this, because you seem like you're all over the place, man.
Yeah, I honestly feel like in any given take, like, right before, right after any scene ended, the character, and probably Bill Murray himself, just did a huge line.
Yeah.
Like his like after he has that scene in the casket where he's like on fire and whatever, and then he realizes that he's alive, he has this manic energy to him that doesn't feel like I've been given a second chance.
No.
it's like, even as a kid, I always thought that the ending of this film is very weird and very off. And like, he is so manic crazy after he's quote unquote alive that hell, he scares the man with the shotgun.
Something that I stumbled upon as I was watching this time around online was an interview where Bill Murray talked about not really getting along with Richard Donner on this, and one of his criticisms was that Richard Donner's like main direction to him was just louder. So after every take, louder, and I found that interesting, given that, like, I wonder if, like, it felt to me after hearing that Richard Donner was looking for that mania, which makes, I don't know, I'm like, I kind of want to watch it again from the beginning with that context.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I mean, it made me, after watching it, really wonder, like, it did feel like it was all intentional, but I didn't know to what end. So sure. I'm curious to know, like, why he wanted that as a director.
Yeah, I would have been curious to see Murray's choices. I would love to see a cut of this movie where it's the first take on everything.
Right.
Before Donner came in and just told him to do it louder.
Bill Murray also said that there was a lot of bad takes, and that I think I might be remembering the quote wrong, but the stuff that Bill Murray did like didn't really end up in the final cut. So again, just like two very, I think they both had a strong vision and a strong passion for this movie, and those visions did not align.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because like the Bill Murray of it all is interesting, because he's very much playing. It's almost so. This is going to be a roundabout way to get to the point that I'm making. Has anyone here? I assume you both have. Has anyone here seen Batman Returns?
Yeah.
Yes, but only a couple of times, so I don't remember it really well.
Well, at some point, even after you finish this show, go back and watch any scene with Christopher Walken. And the reason I mention is because Christopher Walken feels like he's doing a Christopher Walken impression throughout that movie. And that's kind of what feels like Bill Murray feels like he's doing in this movie. He feels like he's doing an impression of Bill Murray.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Right.
And it's very
intensified version of the Bill Murray character.
Because like you look at like Bill Murray's character in Ghostbusters, and he has these same douchey tendencies, but he's more laid back and slick about it.
He's trying to be like charmingly Stevie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Relying on that hope.
And like I do think you needed to amp that character up a little bit to make it work. But like as I was watching this most recent time, I was like, I still love this movie, and I love the humor that we're getting out of Bill Murray, but there's no world where I'm rooting for him. And I often forget about the ending of this film, because when I was a kid, pretty much the second that he has his "I'm alive," moment, and as he's coming out of the elevator, it's usually when I stopped watching.
That's something that I've always found interesting about A Christmas Carol too, from the get-go. Like, you have a protagonist who is intensely unlikable, which is almost never done successfully, but in A Christmas Carol somehow it is. Like, it makes it a really curious outlier.
Yeah, I think everyone can to some degree relate to being a curmudgeon at some point, which is what Ebenezer Scrooge is, So I think that's part of what makes that character someone we can relate to, which is oddly enough something that I don't feel like Bill Murray has in this. Like he's a lot of like unlikable, but he's not relatable.
No,
for most of the film. And it does, once he like turns, it's hard to quite feel it as an audience member, at least for me.
Yeah.
It's like, nothing before all this made me feel like you were changing all that much.
His supporting cast really carries him.
Oh, yeah.
And it's weird, even though Bill Murray is cranked to 10 in this fucking movie, he is still the straight man through a lot of these situations. No matter how amped up he is, Carol Kane is still going to out-amp him in every turn of this movie.
This is the role that Carol Kane was born to play. I mean, she has played some incredible roles, but that one was just tailor-made for her.
Definitely. And it's... So I was thinking about what you were just saying, Nick, about how Ebenezer Scrooge as a character is a very weird character because he isn't he's there, anti-heroes, unlikable characters, things like that happen all the time. I think of like most notably something like Taxi Driver. He's not a character we're necessarily rooting for, but we're fascinated by watching him. With all the adaptations I've seen of A Christmas Carol, how much I feel for the character of Ebenezer Scrooge, realistically comes from how the Ghost of Christmas Past is portrayed. Because that's your heart. That is where you're supposed to see this young idealistic kid before the world pulls him down. And I love all the scenes between Bill Murray and Karen Allen, but I don't think there's enough of it in this.
Yeah, it very much like you start with some heart with them, and then it all of a sudden pushes you to like, oh, now Bill Murray doesn't care about her at all. He just wants to be in this dog suit and try to make his way up the TV ladder.
He is fighting for the integrity of Frisbee the dog.
Yes. And it is a very big jump, and it's a little jarring to go from such a loving section to not. But even at the same time, I will say, like, what's weird about the section where they're kind of doting on each other is he gives her a bunch of knives for Christmas, which is a real weird gift. I mean, she gives him a weird gift too, but
in the fun way.
Yes, exactly.
And the Ghost of Christmas Past made so like knives, really, and he was, like there is a subtle acknowledgement that it was kind of a shitty gift. And he's like, what? And you can there is the evidence in the story of how his dad gave him the veal. So this is something that he was really never taught to do. But I think something that was missing for me that I've seen in most adaptations is there's a point where Scrooge starts down the path he is on in the past for noble. He's doing it for Belle. He's doing it for this woman that he loves. And at some point he gets pulled into money and that
he
financial
gets consumed
system.
by greed.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas in this one, it's like, yay, I really like this girl. And then there's just a switch flip where he is never doing it for her. And then the world changes him. It seems more like he never had it to begin with.
Yeah.
So there was never that anchor in childhood of there is a good person there that the world damaged and therefore needs a big moment to bring back his young self.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a shame. There's Karen Allen gets the shaft in a lot of movies.
She is so good and so charming and such a natural, her performances I have never seen one that doesn't kind of spellbind me with how natural it is. She is a national treasure and does not get enough.
No, and like she was great in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but then every time they brought her back in an indie movie, it's just like, oh, you're really just not giving Karen Allen anything. But but all these complaints, like not complaints, but criticisms about that section of Scrooge, I will say this movie does still charm me. Bill Murray and Karen Allen have so much chemistry. They have such an amazing meet cute sequence with them at the record store and like that smash cut. Bill Murray's bad joke. Yeah, Bill Murray's bad joke about walking on the side of the road. And then like I sometimes forget how good of an actor Bill Murray can be when he's working with material or people that he gives a shit about. Like the best pieces of sentimentality throughout this movie are just Bill Murray looking onward. You know, him looking through the window and remembering. Like, I felt those moments on his face.
Niagara Falls, Frankie.
Yeah. Or, like, at the end when he's giving his overly long speech, and Bill Murray has tears in his eyes. It's like, I believe these moments. I just wanted... I wanted more of that.
Yeah, I agree.
But like I said, all these complaints to say, like Kyle, you said before, this movie just takes big fucking swings.
Yeah. I think that the images that stand out the most in my mind are when they go to the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Oh yeah,
and the future that they're depicting is wild. It's stark, it's bare, but it's also interior, where I feel like in other Christmas carols that adaptations I've seen, it's like this ugly dead forest or something like this. This is like not that at all. It is very impressionistic,
misty and
futuristic,
empty, like very large and empty.
Right.
And slanted.
Yes, it's slanted. Yeah.
I love that when he gets out the elevator and he's like sliding. Like it's a subtle little effect, but
it's just like that comes out of nowhere. I'm like, I don't know how you thought to put that as the future for this movie, but it's compelling to look at. So,
or even the depiction, depiction of the Ghost of Christmas Future with the television for the phase.
That's cool.
Well, and television plays a major role in, obviously in the movie as a whole, but in each of the ghosts' interpretations, maybe not major role, but in, obviously he has the television face in the future. In the present, when they're at his brother's house and the trivia is all TV-based trivia, which then harkens back to what we saw first in The Visit to the Past, when the kid is propped up in front of the TV set watching Howdy Doody and, don't stay up too late watching, it's bad for your eyes. And like, you can see the seeds of what became this guy who is a vice president of a cable network. And I think a lot of those choices that we were talking about earlier, I think but my interpretation of what they're trying to say has as much to do with the entertainment industry as it does about Christmas. And, it's like, it seems, it feels to me, and I could be wrong about this, of Richard Donner going, yeah, this industry fucking sucks.
Yeah. Well, and I think that might even explain why Bill Murray's performance ends up being what it is too, where you don't quite believe that what he's saying is what he believes or what's going to come of this character, because maybe Richard Donner himself is a little jaded with TV and with the people in charge of TV. And he kind of knows that, they're not actually going to be redeemed.
Yeah, it's there's almost like a very interesting subplot. I almost feel like there's a lot cut out of this movie. Like, I don't know that for sure, but there's just like the movie works as a coherent piece, but I almost just feel like there's bits and pieces removed from this film. And there's an interesting like undercurrent of like you said, jadedness. Like I think there's many years ago, filmmaker Kevin Smith had these plans to retire from filmmaking. He just lost, to quote a professional wrestling quote, he had lost his smile. And he had no interest in it. And someone asked him why he was why he wanted to do that. And he said, the best way I can describe it is this. When I was a kid, I loved chocolate milk. And he's like, being in this industry right now feels like I was a kid who loved chocolate milk, who went to the store to buy some chocolate milk. And someone's like, do you want to run the chocolate milk factory? And you're like, yeah, I want to do that. But then you have to worry about, shipments, quality control, all this other stuff. And you were just a kid that loved chocolate milk. And that honestly, there's an interesting aspect to this film of how many of us got into the arts, like all three of us being filmmakers and artists, where we thought, like, I love movies. I want to find a way to make a living off of movies.
Yeah. And
then we get into it. And while Kyle, you are actually making your living doing freelance, so you are closer to filmmaking than me. And Nick, you work at a television studio, so you guys are way closer to making a living off of it than me. But we all loved it at one point, and then we got really involved in it, and you question what you loved about it. I
have had a lot of that joy and excitement sucked out of me, certainly over the course of my career. There was a time where I would have, most of my adult life, my take on it was, even if I was dealing with things that I didn't like, I am going to find a way to tell stories. In the last couple of years, I have been like, you know what? I'm okay letting all of that go now. Like the pain points are more intense than the need. And I don't even know how much need is still down there. And that's something that I'm struggling with. And like, I don't know where my path in the arts goes from here.
Yeah. I mean, I spend most of my time just doing like ad work, and the very, it's the down and dirty one-man band going to film a bunch of interviews for some ad agency client that's just going to get thrown on YouTube and watched by 100 to 2,000 people, and you're like, I don't really, and half the time you're like, oh, these products, I don't even know if I want to be working on stuff with these products. And it definitely gets you to realize that it's not the chocolate milk, all the time.
Yeah. And what people want, and granted, this has always been there in different ways, but the things that excited me about filmmaking, the quality that I liked to put into it, the things that are important about storytelling for me, the things that we've talked about on this podcast for years, like, none of that matters to the clients that I work with. And what does is the views. And I think there were times where those overlapped more. Like that there was this idea that quality would equal views. Mm-hmm. And now the way that social media operates, those two things have been ripped very far apart from each other, where it's like, why would I put money into making something look good when you have a smartphone and most of what gets views is somebody sitting in front of their smartphone in their bedroom talking? Like, there is no more or little motivation for somebody to go, here's a bunch of money so that you can make me something of high quality.
Yeah. I mean, I even like watching YouTube myself, I will sometimes kind of go a little stir crazy and watch and be like, why am I watching this junk?
Yep.
Like, I know it's junk. Why am I watching this? And it gets a little under my skin in that way. And I'll even say, like, I've been working on a documentary for a while, and even that it has its really good moments, and those moments tend to be when I'm focusing on that story aspect. Like, oh, this is the story I'm trying to tell within this film, but everything outside of it, not everything, but most of the things outside of it suck. Like anything else that has to do with making the film, you're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And it's like, as I think about it now, and it's easy to see how like little young Frank Cross, who spent his life so consumed by media to the point where he doesn't even have memories of his own life. He's getting it confused with the Homecoming special of Little House. He had an opportunity.
Yes, it was the Homecoming episode of Little House.
He had an opportunity to start working in a television studio, and he probably jumped on it because it's like, oh, that's what I want to do. That's what I love. It's the only thing I know. And he had the opportunity to be a star by being Frisbee the dog. It's very easy to see how, like, we don't know what Lee Hayward was like as his boss, but it's very easy to see how a once TV obsessed kid can become this guy, especially when you're below someone like Preston Rhinelander, who is like, cats are going to start watching television.
I love when they cut to him in the end and he has a bunch of cats in his house.
Yeah,
yes.
That part's good.
Going back to the intensity that we were talking about before and being curious as to the motive, I'm going to take some liberties here and make some assumptions that may not be true. So there's the asterisk footnote out of the way. If we say that Richard Donner was trying to express a jadedness about the industry, this is also a story that has been told over and over and over again for, 100+ years at that point. And if he is looking at an industry that's on a trajectory that he doesn't like, I can start to interpret the intensity of both some of the dark scenes in the film, but then also the intensity of the end as this, like, how many times do we have to say this before we do something about it? The manicness of that ending is like, how many times do we need to tell this very story before we wake up, before we start to change it on a societal level? And and we watch it and we're like, oh, what a fun movie. And then it's, these things do impact us. We watch, like, I very often tear up at that scene at the end, and it means something to me. But what do we do? Like, what are the ways that art can actually inspire change? What does it take? How much do we watch that doesn't ask for change? It's the conversation is leading me to this thought of, like, why do we do it? Why does Richard Donner do it? Why does Bill Murray do it? Like, why do we do this storytelling? There's power in it. Hell, everything, like, our reality is just stories that we tell each other. That's all everything is just stories that we tell each other. How do we use that as power?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. Yeah. I mean, even thinking about that ending from the viewpoint of being, the industry side of it. I mean, the filmmaking industry has been known for having notoriously awful hours.
Yeah.
For crew and cast.
Safety concerns.
Right. What's weird is, like, it's only been started to get addressed, like, within the past couple of years. So, Scrooged was in what, 84, 80?
This movie is 88.
88. Okay. And it still took 20 plus years before people started actually implementing some of those, or before the industry started implementing some of kind of outrage that is shown at the end.
with Wicked coming out, we rewatched The Wizard of Oz, and of course, every time you watch The Wizard of Oz, there's all the stories about like how many people were very grievously, very seriously hurt on the set, and that was like, and this was the first, like, I'd hear those stories and go, yeah, that was horrible. But to contextualize it as like, that was such a huge movie for the time back when there weren't a lot of safety protection, you know, by comparison. Yes, Kyle, you're right. The safety stuff from 88 to today is a world of difference. But then also like the difference between the 40s and the 80s, like they were killing people long before the 80s on films. And another Rust is another like conversation that's being had on film sets about the dangers of this art form when safety is not taken seriously.
I feel like that's the film that finally got basically a studio system to start having these conversations. It was that plus one of the unions going on strike at that point.
Right.
So, yeah, it took a long time to get there, and we're still at, you know, they're still working crazy hours. It's just a little better than it was.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've been sitting here just thinking about, because this is a strange movie in many ways. Yeah. But like I was thinking about it, it's like, okay, Richard Donner is not really a comedy guy. He's not really known for making comedies. You know, like, yeah, he has things like The Goonies in his career, but like he's not really that guy. And the script was written by two guys, Mitch Glazer and Michael O'Donoghue. Michael O'Donoghue, if people aren't familiar with that name, he is best known for being a writer for the National Lampoon magazine, and he was also the head writer for like the early days of Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
So very hardcore comedy guy. Mitch Glazer also worked for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that name sounds familiar to me.
So, and then, you know, so then you also have the Bill Murray connection. And I've been sitting here thinking about like how there is no subtlety in this movie whatsoever. And even that ending, it just kind of felt like Richard Donner and company being like, in case you aren't sure what the themes of A Christmas Carol are, here's Bill Murray to explain them to you. And I've been sitting here thinking, it's like, I actually think the performance that Bill Murray does in that scene is pretty great, considering it's not, he's a lot that he's saying, but he doesn't have a whole lot to do. It's just kind of him rattling things off for a while, and he brings something to it. But I've been sitting here thinking, it's like, was that scene Richard Donner being like, this is the end all be all of Christmas Carol? Like, here's like, we're going to just spell it out for audiences. Cause he'd been making movies and worked on television for so long at that point. Was it Richard Donner kind of like holding the hand of the audience, or was it Mitch Glazer and Michael O'Donoghue poking fun at the audience and Richard Donner didn't get it? I've just been wrestling with these thoughts this entire time. I don't really know the point I'm trying to make, but
Sure.
with my time researching this movie, the screenwriters and Bill Murray have all said that Richard Donner didn't quite 100% get the material.
Okay. And I know that, and it's kind of just true of Bill Murray, but a lot of his dialogue was ad-libbed.
That's not surprising.
Yeah. And so I'd add a third element to that question you were asking, like, is it Richard Donner expressing jadedness? Is it the writers? Or is it Bill? Like, how much of that is coming from Bill Murray? in that scene in particular.
It's honestly impressive that we got a movie that is this coherent and this fun and as well made as Bill Murray has said that he thinks this movie could have been incredible if they could have made the version that was written.
He turned down a bunch of really big roles for this.
He hadn't acted for 4 years up until this point. He took 4 years off. And he came back, so he was scared because he felt like he was going to be a little out of his element. You take 4 years off of doing anything, you're going to have some ring rust to you. So it's interesting to I also then wonder because sometimes the best movies are things where nothing went right. Like, had they made the version this was supposed to be, would people still be talking about this movie? I feel like because it's so strange and so all over the place, and Bill Murray is ramped up to 10, like he's on cocaine through the entire film, and it's tonally strange.
But this Bill Murray goes up to 11.
Yeah, exactly. And you have a movie that's I still think a really extremely funny movie by a guy who doesn't make comedies. Like, it was the most fun watching you and Jess watch this movie, Kyle.
Well, I mean, just the first 5 minutes alone are incredibly hilarious.
Yeah.
The whole,
the night the reindeer died.
Yes, that sequence is insanity. But I love it. All of a sudden, there's just a bunch of people with Tommy guns shooting up Santa Claus.
There's the elf that kind of looks like Cher.
Lee Majors was a very good boy.
This is one Santa who's going through the front door. And it's like, and I knew that was coming. And I was just like, because I knew you knew what we were watching. I know you didn't know a whole lot about it. But I think you could tell by the title, it's a version of A Christmas Carol with Bill Murray.
Yeah, totally.
And the way this movie begins, I was waiting for you to be like, is this the right movie? Did you put the wrong
it's crazy. Yeah, it doesn't, until you realize it's a preview or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. You're just like, where is this film going to take me? Which I guess sets you up for the rest of the movie, because it does take you in crazy taxis and
Carol Kane hitting people with toasters.
Yes.
That's what's one of my favorite line deliveries in the entire movie, when Bill Murray gets up, like, the bitch hit me with a toaster.
I'm so glad I wore my pretty dress.
And it's no surprise that this movie used to scare the shit out of me as a kid. And it's probably one of the reasons that I have an obsession with A Christmas Carol to begin with. I don't know. There's so much to unpack in this movie. And I don't even think we could do it completely justice in the hour that we've been talking. But I think we've kind of managed to scratch beneath the surface a little bit of some bigger themes that might be going on behind the surface. And who knows? It's like watching a Hitchcock movie where something like Vertigo is far more interesting if you know who Hitchcock was as a person and know what his obsessions are. After this conversation, I now want to kind of scratch beneath the surface of where was Richard Donner at mentally in 1988?
Right.
Why was this the movie he decided to make? Because before this, he had done Goonies and Lethal Weapon. He did this and then did Lethal Weapon 2. This feels like a weird film for him.
And the film that Bill, I forget which movies he turned down. I read earlier today there were 3 big ones that he turned down in order to do this. So what? And he was debating giving up on acting. What was it about this movie that brought Bill Murray back in and made him choose this project?
Yeah, because he had taken off essentially from Ghostbusters to this.
Like he was living in France, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And like he is kind of a recluse. So yeah, I think there's a lot of and like I said, I want to see if the disc has a commentary track because I got so many questions.
Ooh,
like how did Bobcat Goldthwait get involved in this movie? Or
he was so great. I loved him in this.
It's weird to see him dialed back so much.
Right.
Because like Kyle, you said you hadn't been familiar with Bobcat Goldthwait other than the fact that he voiced a character in Hercules, but Bobcat Goldthwait was he is a stand-up comedian who I guess you could describe as an alternative comic, in that his shtick was that he's not going out there and telling jokes. He's going out there to disrupt the audience.
I don't think you know who you're dealing with.
Like, he got so much hate because his whole gimmick was he'd go out there with this really weird voice, which he's doing a version of in this movie.
Yeah,
but
he does subtle, but it is there.
He does a way.
I don't know if subtle's what I'd call it, but
wait until you see what he's actually like.
Yeah.
He's almost like the Tasmanian devil in the Looney Tunes as a human being.
Okay,
that's a good parallel.
Kurt Cobain was a big fan of his and had him opening for the band. He had a comedian opening for Nirvana. And what he would do is he would suspend himself from the ceiling of whatever venue they're in, wearing a tutu, and he'd just be gargling into a microphone, swearing at people, and they would pelt him with beer bottles.
Oh my gosh.
So like to see then him play Elliot Loudermilk, a all intents and purposes meek character, is insane. Carol Kane is an Oscar winner for Esther Street. Other weird choices in this were David Johansen, who played the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Right, musician.
He was in the band the New York Dolls. He also performed under the pseudonym Buster Poindexter. He's a musician. He has done acting. Nick, he was in Santa with Muscles. Tied back to a previous episode.
I think that is where I discovered that he was a musician, was from you in that episode.
But then
he's a highlight for me in this movie.
Oh, he is so good in every scene.
His comedy bits all hit, and he's got just a really distinctive look to him.
Oh my god.
I think one of the most iconic lines of this film, and it's 100% because of the delivery by him, is when he turns back from the front seat of the cab and goes, "I'm the ghost." Like the delivery is so like, "Yup, motherfucker, it's me."
And it's great too because like he does so much even though he's also like up to like 10 or 11 in this movie. Mm-hmm. The funniest stuff he does is when he's just rolling his eyes at Bill Murray.
Yeah, that's true too.
And it's a bone, you lucky dog.
Or like me and like the line that me and Nick quote the most, or actually me and Amanda quote all the time too, is when he saw his mother, Niagara Falls. Like he's just so specific. Yes. But then like you also got Robert Mitchum. The fucking Robert Mitchum. And another big name, the guy who played Lou Hayward, the Jacob Marley of this movie.
Yep.
That's John Forsythe.
Oh, that's right.
He was in like the Hitchcock movie with Shirley Tim, The Trouble with Harry. He was Charlie in Charlie's Angels, and he's just under makeup.
Which was great makeup, by the way.
Yeah,
it's very good.
His makeup effects, the mouse coming out the back of his head, and so good. The way his arm snaps off in the window.
Yeah. And Michael J. Pollard, who played the homeless guy who gets frozen in the sewer, he made his big mark in Bonnie and Clyde. Like this movie has such an interesting cast to it.
Yeah.
Doesn't even need to.
I think I'm right about this. One of the older female homeless person in that group wasn't that the mom from
Throw Mama from the Train?
Yes, but also of the Goonies.
Yes, the Goonies and Throw Mama from the
Daughters.
Train.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Throw Mama from the Train since I was a kid because that movie frightened
the
living daylights out of me.
What is that? Isn't that based on a Hitchcock story also?
Is it?
It's loosely inspired off of Strangers on a Train.
Yeah, who did that?
I believe so, because Alfred Hitchcock did Strangers on a Train.
Okay, I wasn't remembering.
It was kind of that whole crisscross thing. Is like, you kill my mother, I'll kill your wife, or whatever. It's essentially that story. So this back half of this was just me like just shining a light on how bonkers yet good this cast is.
Yep.
Because like I said, once again, going back to David Johansen, he's not an actor. He does acting, but he's not an actor, and he steals every scene he's in as the cab driver.
Yep.
And like Carol Kane is an actor. She's just chaos incarnate in this movie.
Well, I think that someone who's quite popular even nowadays is it Elfrey Woodard.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about her.
Yeah, I mean, she was such a huge part of. What's the Luke Cage? She was in, but she's just she's a powerhouse in this movie, and she's the actual soul of it. Out of everyone in the cast.
Like, she's given so little to do, but she brings it in every single little moment. I especially love the scenes where she's just talking to her son. Her son can't talk, but she's holding a whole conversation with nothing.
You're going to show them someday, and then you're going to sue their butts off. One of the moment that kind of, as a parent, certainly, that gets me every time is when they've dressed up the boy in the Christmas tree decorations, and she goes in there to say stop it, and she has to choke back a laugh, and it is so authentic and so that feeling when you're going to tell your kids no, and it's so goddamn funny what they're doing.
But then she is such a good character. Even scenes she's not in build her character up. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when Bill Murray and Carol Kane are at Bill Murray's brother's house, and he opens up and he goes, "That doesn't look like a towel."
Yeah.
Alfrey Woodward's character didn't make a mistake. She did that intentionally.
Super intentionally.
She's not in that scene, but that's still...
You can hear her voice. You can hear her voice in that scene going, "Your own brother."
Mm-hmm.
It's that performance that she gave before lingers in that scene.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. I still absolutely love this movie. It is not without its faults, as we've discovered on here. I think it's an imperfect masterpiece in its own weird way, and I will go on record to say I think it's one of the most unique adaptations of A Christmas Carol that we'll probably ever get. Yeah, even versions I love. I love the 1984 version of George C. Scott. I think that's my favorite, truly traditional adaptation. You have the Muppets Christmas Carol. You have all these
Michael
different
Caine
versions.
Is my Ebenezer.
Yeah, you have all these different versions, but they're all kind of doing the same thing.
It's the traditional, even if you throw a bunch of puppets in, it's still set in that time period, telling the original story, even though they're throwing gags in and
but
songs.
The only ghost in this one that is like any of the others was the Ghost of Christmas Future. Even though the look is completely different, he's still like a Grim Reaper-esque character. But
he's going to be a big star.
Did our people do that? We're going to get called. I think this is one of the most unique adaptations of this story, and it's something because you said earlier, Kyle, it is a adaptation of A Christmas Carol within an adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I enjoyed the movie more than I didn't. So to me, I think it's still worth a watch for people, especially because I just think that there's a lot of craft that's going on too. I think people should watch it because it's bonkers, and sometimes you should just watch bonkers stuff.
Yep.
But then the other thing is, the costuming, the set design, some of the cinematography is really quite beautiful and really well done. So
yeah, and even just like little things like his transitions in and out of scenes, like that transition of, from the Frisbee the Dog Show transition out to the set of A Christmas Carol with the cab driving away on the set was just so well done. And I was just thinking about logistically, it's like, granted, they had a lot more money, but like, I bet that alone probably was a good day of shooting.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like they were on set for this movie for 3 months. Okay. I can guarantee to get that right and to match the footage, that was at least a week. That was at least a day of shooting.
I read one other anecdote that I'd like to share before we wrap up, because it is surprisingly pertinent to a lot of the conversation that we ended up having that I wasn't expecting in this episode, where Richard Donner wanted to give the cast off for Christmas because I guess they were filming around that time.
Makes sense.
And the producers told him no, which is like, the story that we're making, right? So the way that he handled it was he fired the entire cast and crew and then hired them all back 2 days later to give them that time off.
Oh, Richard, I wonder if he stopped their bonuses.
Oh, thank you. Yes. 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh my god, that is a great story. And
I read it on the internet. I can't verify it.
John Ford one time said, when you have to choose between the truth and the legend, print the legend.
Yes. Yep. There is the legend.
So before I let you guys get out of here, on this show we do something called the Thrill House moment, where you talk about your favorite moment of the movie that kind of like shifted you into a second gear, that's like, I'm in on whatever journey this movie takes me on. If you don't have one of those, it can even just be a favorite scene. If you guys need a minute, I'll tell you mine. This is a hard movie to say, like, which scene I was like focused and ready, but I will tell you, as a kid, my favorite sequence of this entire movie was the Carol Kane sequence. Just, like I said, even before I knew who Carol Kane was, I just knew that she was chaos incarnate in a tutu. That voice, just the way that she interacts with Bill Murray, and the fact
when
that
she's twisting and slapping him with the reins,
and the fact that there's even nice moments between her and Bill Murray, like when Bill Murray goes, like, he's a bright little guy, and she has to deliver all of her lines like this, and like it still works. She gives a legitimately good performance through that goofy persona that she has created.
And then sometimes she gets really growly.
Close your eyes. Yeah, she does that one. Yeah, so that would be mine. Like, I realistically think, like, from the first frame of this movie, it's like, if you're not engaged, something's wrong. But as a kid, that was my favorite section.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, watching that opening and being as surprised as I was for it, but then you get to that realization of like, okay, this is going to be a satire, and that had me hooked in to watch the rest.
Yeah, like that opening, like going like with, like you said the armed like guys with machine guns and Santa Claus with a Danny Elfman score. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Because like Danny Elfman scores are not subtle.
No. That's why it's
nor is any part of this movie.
Yeah, right. My mom is convinced forever this was a Tim Burton movie. Mama Viers, it is not a Tim Burton movie. It is a Richard Donner movie. Love you, Mom, if you're listening.
I would go. I already mentioned this moment, but there's something about the line that feels like an intentional gear shift to me, and that is the Ghost of Christmas Past going, I'm the ghost. It's like, that is where it's like, okay, we're going into the Willy Wonka tunnel, into like, this story, let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
Can I just point out one little moment from those sequences that I love? So I love that since this isn't a world where A Christmas Carol exists, there is this sense with Bill Murray's performance where he's like, he's shocked at first, but he's not spending the entire movie being like, where are we now? He's just kind of like, okay, I got things to do.
Yep. I could maybe fit you in for a breakfast.
There's that moment where when they go back to his old house and he's like, I thought they demolished this place. And they did. And then he goes, he's like making excuses. I can see my dad hasn't put up the Christmas lights yet. Frankie, it's Christmas Eve.
Come on, man.
And then you could practically hear the ellipses. Like, he just says nothing.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, you got me there. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
As always, I take a bunch of notes, so I'm just gonna rattle off some of the like little ones that like apparently I thought were worth writing down because I love them so much. The line, I don't mind you hitting me, Frank, but take it easy on the Bacardi, is a masterpiece.
It's delivered so well.
I really like, in A Christmas Carol, there's that epic, like, beautifully written line about you might be a bit of undigested beef.
Yeah. And they kind of twist that in this.
To, like, Russian vodka poisoned by Chernobyl is this film's version.
Mm-hmm.
I found it really weird that Claire made a custom outgoing voicemail message for Christmas. It seems like something specific to the time, maybe.
Yeah, that was the thing that people used to do. I say as if you're not older than me, Nick.
Something that catches my attention every single time when they're in the restaurant, it's when the first ghost is supposed to appear and he sees the eyeball and like things are starting to get crazy. So the waiter's response to Bill Murray's panic at the table is kind of down in the mix, but he's like, that's a baked Alaska, sir. You wouldn't want that. And then says something similar about the meatloaf. I'm like, why is this waiter
that
saying like,
had the meatloaf?
Yes, you don't want, and it like, just bring the man a fucking baked Alaska if you think he wants a baked Alaska.
Or like the fact that he keeps like correcting his pronunciation of have. Have. It's a subtle little thing, but that guy really makes that scene.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I liked the Ghost of Christmas Past explaining how they're just observers by describing it as a rerun.
Yeah,
which is
that was
very
nice...
true to to that TV theme.
And knowing that the guys who wrote this movie were, funny enough to think about it, it's like they did live production.
Yeah,
Saturday Night Live. They wrote for television. This is a world they know.
100%. Oh, a connection I made this time that I never caught before is when the censor woman got hit on the head and he turns her head to see it and goes, was I supposed to move her head? And the medic says no. But then in the flashback, when at their meet cute, when he's smacked in the head by the door and Karen Allen moves his head and he says, I don't think you're supposed to move the head of somebody that just had a head injury.
Amanda noticed that this time too.
That really interesting.
Yeah. Any other notes, Nick?
Two more.
By the way, I love that, Nick, this is something that it's always exclusive with you. It's like, we're pretty much done. Just let's finish up your notes.
This isn't like they're not deep conversation starters, but I still want to get it out. Multiple references to Free South Africa.
Yeah, there was a lot of those.
Was an interest, like it was a political event that was happening at the time that they slipped in. I thought that was cool. I guess two more now. I lied. There was three before. I love the VCR as the status symbol present.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, a video cassette recorder.
I love that Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's famous manager, didn't even get one. He got a towel.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Colonel Tom Parker, he got a towel.
And then I think, Kyle, you had mentioned at one point, it might have been Michael, like Bill Murray's character saying things that maybe he should have listened to, or something that he said that was really a subconscious expression of his own. And another one of those lines is when he's yelling at Herman's frozen corpse, "Why didn't you stay with Claire? She would have kept you safe." It was like,
so would have been a way prettier color.
Yeah, you shoulda, Herman.
Yeah.
Oh, nope, I have one more. The exercise room where when his brother visits him at work, on the wall, cross, something you nail someone to.
Yeah. It's always one of my favorite. Actually, that was something Amanda noticed the first time this watching too. Was that detail.
Nice. So yeah, those are all the lines and details that I really appreciated and had to say.
All right. Well, I do thank you both for joining me on our yearly tradition of a Christmas episode.
Merry Christmas, you two.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Frankie Angel. Nick, I know you're not on social media. Kyle, do you have anything going on that you want people to know about? Any social media accounts they should follow? Tell us about the birds.
The birds. You can follow me on Instagram at the Carp, Karp 14. And I post a bunch of my bird photos and behind the scenes of what I'm doing on either ad sets or my documentary and stuff like that. So it's probably the best way to follow me.
All right. At this point, you should all know where to find me. I'm Michael_Viers on Instagram and the Shameless Picture Show. Pretty much everything else. You find me on TikTok where I do physical media reviews. I talk about aspect ratios probably more than anyone on that platform. I'll mention this movie was displayed in the incorrect aspect ratio on this disc. This movie was shot in 1.85:1. But they made it 1.78:1 on the disc because they think people don't notice. But I noticed. I
did not notice.
You can also find me on Letterboxd where you can see all my musings. It's a kind of a historic year. I have almost written a review for every movie I've watched this movie. I am over 230 movies for the year. I think I'm only like 20 reviews off from having them all. Reviewed. So it's a big year. I try to do that every year. They're not always like super like extremely long reviews, but I try to write something about everything, and I'm almost there. I just need to sit down. I had a really lax job before my current job, so I used to write them on the clock, but I can't do that anymore. So it slowed down a little bit, but this is. You guys have to come back. I'll have to get you both on next year for season 9. Kyle, I think we already have some ideas to get you on.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, thank everyone. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
If I'm planning this correctly, this should be coming out. You should be listening to this the day before Christmas Eve. Have a wonderful Christmas. Go watch some movies, and I'll see you next time. Shame time, shame place, Shameless Picture Show. And then an extra special thanks to fellow podcaster and friend of the show, Austin Proctor, who actually had edited this episode. So if you want to support Austin Proctor and everything he does, be sure to check out the Frightmares podcast. I am a occasional co-host on that show, but he does one of my favorite podcasts about the horror genre, and it should be one of your favorite podcasts too. So thanks a lot for Austin Proctor for editing this episode.
The Shameless Picture Show is recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Easton, Maryland, and is hosted and produced by Nick Richards and Michael Viers. Today's episode was edited by Michael Viers. Our opening theme music was written especially for us by The Directionals, with narration by Zach McClain. The end credit music you're enjoying at the moment was generously provided by my friends in the band 10 Speed. The Shameless graphic design is masterfully done by Amanda Viers. An extra special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters and to our generous sponsors. We are on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Google Play, and Libsyn. You can find links for all these amazing people in the description below.